populisme. Of je komt met 10 puntenplannen waarvan je weet dat 8 van de 10 punten niet komen. Of je roept steeds meer grip op migratie, meer grip op migratie. We willen het allemaal. Maar als er dan een wetsvoorstel ligt waar dingen scherper worden gemaakt, en dan zijn we niet thuis. Ja, ik kan dat niet verdedigen.
Yeah, guys. So I think now they're debating today is the 26th of June 2025, and this is a debate in the Tweede Kamer, so the parliament, the Dutch parliament, where they're talking about migration again. And I think with the new elections coming, it's really important that people inform themselves about this thing, so you know what the parties stand for, you know who you're voting, right? Because I would like to think, of course, it's not one-on-one related, but I like to think if you're not voting, the people who are voting for the PVV and for these stricter measures are going to the polls and they're voting. So everybody who is not voting is kind of indirectly somewhat voting for these parties, right? But now they're debating, for example, a two-status system, twee-stelselssysteem, and that will basically be able to differentiate between asylum seekers. Some people will get the asylum status and some people will get a subsidiary protection. And the subsidiary protection basically means they're not giving you, you don't qualify for asylum according to the Geneva Agreement, but there's strong evidence to suggest that if you go back to your country, you're in danger. That would also have consequences. For example, you're getting a resident status for a temporary period of time, so you're not getting an asylum status, which is more long-term, but you're getting a temporary residence permit for protection until they can see if you're, suitable to go back to your country or not, right? So there's going to be a difference between asylum seekers, people who are getting an asylum status, and people who are getting a subsidiary protection. So that's what they're debating now. It's not a law yet, but it's being debated now. And what you can see is that, the party that is defending this now, or who is more for it, is the CDA. And the people who previously were more about family and who were really less strict on migration. And now, for example, they're trying to get more, strict on migration, where this lady's but you guys have always been about family. Are the families of the asylum seekers not also important? Because one thing that plays a role here as well is, according to that system, there will be a difference in those who can bring family with them and those who cannot, right? That's one of the things which this two-status system is going to also tackle, where if you're under subsidiary protection, then you might not have the same right to bring your family with you as those who are actually asylum seekers, right? So this system has a lot of implications that come with it. So they're debating this now, and it's going to be, I don't know what is going to come out of this. I'll keep you guys updated. Follow if you want more on that. But the CDA, for example, is changing their minds. They're changing the tone they're taking on migration. Of course, they're smart. The elections are coming up, so they definitely want to get more votes, and they know that there's a reason, again, why people were voting for the PVV the last time. And if they cannot think about these things and also act accordingly, they're going to find themselves in a losing streak, not winning, losing streak. Because, if you don't tackle these issues people are dealing with, then you're going to constantly find yourself in a compromising spot. Because what the tone you're taking now, for example, is, we have to think about the people who are coming and the families who are coming, but we have to also think about the people who are in the Netherlands and who cannot get housing, right? So they're trying to, turn it around and change the narrative. For example, the other day, I also read an article where D66, the party D66, which is led by Rob Jetten, which have never really had a strong tone on migration. They've always been about education. They've always been about green energy, climate change. They've always been about education and infrastructure. All those things. Those have always been their main campaign themes and their main agendas on their political. You get what I mean? That's always in the main agenda. But now they're taking a really different tone of migration. Apparently, they're trying to emulate the Canadian migration system, where, for example, they want that all asylum applications are done out of the EU, right? Which is more or less in line with what the EU is planning to start implementing in 2026 when it comes to their new migration pact. But what D66 wants to do is that all asylum-seeking applications that are done within the Netherlands or within the EU will not be taken into consideration. So they want every application that is going to be considered for asylum seeking should be done outside of the EU, right? Which is, the EU wants to do the screening at the border, so that everybody is screened before they get into the Eurozone or the European Union. And the D66 wants to implement the same thing with the Dutch migration system as well. The long and short of it is there are a lot of parties who are changing their tone in regards to certain topics. And I think it's a tap away if you don't inform yourself on these things that you're going to vote, right? And if you know anybody who can vote, if you cannot vote yourself, but you know anybody who can vote on matters like this, at least try to have conversations about these things so people know what they're voting for. Because if you just go and vote for parties nowadays, these parties actually have plans. And as we've seen over the last months, some of these plans are not necessarily the best plans, or not necessarily the plans which we would align ourselves with, but we vote for them, or we don't vote for them and other people vote. But we have a vote which counts. So Go out, inform yourself leading up to the elections. The elections are in October, so we have time to inform ourselves while all these parties are changing their tones and changing their plans. I'll do my best to also keep you updated with the things that are happening in the movements, but of course, I cannot do all of that all the time. So please inform yourself so you at least know what's happening, and come October, you can actually vote with things that align with your values as well, because it's looking tricky.